My name is Kai, and I am 17 years old, living here in the vibrant heart of Tokyo, a city that never truly sleeps. Most people see the bright lights, the towering buildings, the endless flow of people always rushing somewhere important. But I see the quiet corners too, the hidden alleys where shadows cling a little longer, where people pause, sometimes looking a little lost. My family runs a small ramen shop, tucked away on a side street. Nothing fancy, just good, honest food made with love. My mother and father work tirelessly, their hands calloused, their smiles often tired but always warm for our customers. After school, I help out, wiping down tables, serving bowls of steaming noodles, listening to the clatter of chopsticks and the murmur of conversations. My real work, though, begins after the shop closes, after my homework is done, when the city starts to quiet down just a little. That's when I become a silent messenger. I create posters, simple ones with encouraging words, a drawing of a smiling sun, a tiny origami crane for good luck. Things like, "You are not alone," or "Tomorrow is a new day," or "Keep going, your strength is remarkable." I tape them up in places where I think they might be seen by someone who needs them most. On lampposts near train stations, on the walls of underpasses, in the quiet corners of parks where people sit alone. I started doing it because I saw so many faces, even in this bustling city, that seemed to carry a heavy weight. My own family was carrying a heavy weight, too. My father had been feeling unwell for months, a persistent cough, a tiredness that stole his usual energy. The doctor's visits were expensive, and he couldn't work as much as he used to. Our ramen shop, our family's entire world, began to struggle. The shelves seemed emptier, the customer count dropped, and the laughter that usually filled our small apartment grew quieter. The constant hum of worries became a dull ache in my chest. My internal nemesis was a creeping fear, a cold knot in my stomach that whispered, what if it's all for nothing? What if these posters are just paper, easily ignored, easily torn? What if I can't help my family? What if we lose everything? It was the fear of being powerless, of watching everything I loved crumble. I tried harder, pouring more of myself into both tasks. I spent longer hours at the ramen shop, cleaning, preparing vegetables, trying to perfect my father's broth recipe, hoping to lighten his load. I suggested new menu items, even tried to hand out flyers on the street, something I was naturally shy about, and I dedicated more nights to my posters. I stayed out later, sometimes until the first light of dawn began to paint the sky, my backpack heavy with supplies, my heart heavy with concern. I walked miles through the maze of Tokyo streets, finding new spots, perfecting my stealth, hoping to spread a little more light. I believed that if I just did enough, if I worked hard enough, if I believed enough, things would have to get better. But they didn't. The shop's numbers continued to dip. We had to cut back on ingredients, which meant we couldn't offer the same variety, which in turn meant fewer customers. It was a vicious cycle. My father's cough worsened, and my mother's worry lines deepened. One rainy evening, as I was carefully taping up a poster near a bus stop, a security guard spotted me. He was kind but firm. "Son, you can't put things up here, it's public property." He made me take it down, and the rain smeared the ink as I peeled it off the damp concrete. That night I saw 3 of my posters, carefully placed just days before, ripped from their spots, lying crumpled and muddy in a gutter. It felt like a punch to the gut. My efforts felt so fragile, so pointless. My grades started to slip in school because I was constantly exhausted. My friends asked why I was always so tired, so distracted, but I couldn't tell them about the shop, about my father, about the posters. I felt a deep, piercing loneliness, like I was carrying this heavy burden all by myself. I thought about giving up the posters, wondering if they were truly making a difference or just draining my energy. Then the worst blow came. Our landlord visited the shop, his face grim. The rent was overdue by 2 months. He told us, politely but firmly, that if we couldn't pay within the next week, he would have to begin eviction proceedings. My mother cried silently into my father's shoulder that night, and my father, usually so strong, looked utterly defeated. The possibility of losing our home, our livelihood, the only thing we had ever known, became terrifyingly real. I sat alone in my room, staring at a blank sheet of paper, a half-finished poster beside me. The encouraging words felt hollow, mocking. What hope could I offer others when I had none left for myself? I truly felt like giving up. The darkness felt like a physical weight, pressing down on me, squeezing all the air out of my lungs. I remember that day with perfect clarity. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. The eviction deadline loomed like a thundercloud. My mother was trying to make a batch of our special gyoza, but her hands were trembling. My father was sitting quietly at the counter, staring out at the empty street, his shoulders slumped. I felt a desperate urge to run, to escape the crushing weight of our situation. But then I saw something. A small group of people was gathering outside our shop, not rushing by, but stopping, looking at our faded storefront. My mother looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. A woman stepped forward, carrying a beautifully woven basket filled with fresh ingredients: crisp cabbage, gleaming scallions, prime ground pork. She had a kind face with gentle eyes, and she was smiling. "Is this Kai's family ramen shop?" she asked softly. My mother, confused, nodded. The woman then explained, her voice carrying a warmth that slowly started to melt the chill in my heart. She told us she had found one of my posters, taped to a lamppost near a park bench where she often sat to reflect. She had been going through a very difficult time, feeling isolated and hopeless after losing her own small business. My poster had read, "Even the smallest light can push back the greatest darkness." It had resonated with her so deeply that she started looking for more, following a trail of my hopeful messages. She saw one of my drawings, a unique little doodle of a smiling cloud, which I sometimes added as my personal signature. She had noticed the same doodle drawn lightly on the shop's chalkboard advertising our daily special, something I had forgotten was even there. She realized the kind soul putting up the posters was the same one who worked in this struggling shop. Touched by my quiet dedication, she had posted about it on a local community website, sharing pictures of my posters and the story of our family shop, urging people to visit. She explained that she wasn't alone. Others who had been touched by my posters, people who had found solace in those simple words, had started coming together, wanting to help. They were strangers, but they felt a connection, a shared humanity sparked by a few pieces of paper and a teenager's quiet hope. The group outside wasn't just a few people, it was growing. Soon our small shop, which had been so empty, was filled with new faces, all smiling, all talking excitedly about the posters. They bought ramen, not just one bowl, but 2 or 3, some even leaving generous tips. One man, a local carpenter, offered to fix our worn-out sign. Another woman, a retired teacher, offered to tutor me to help me catch up on my schoolwork. The kindness was overwhelming, a wave washing over us, pulling us out from under the crushing weight. I finally took a deep breath, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could truly breathe. I spoke to the crowd, my voice shaky at first, but gaining strength with every word. I told them about my father's illness, about the struggle, about my fear. And I told them how their belief, their kindness, had reminded me that hope was not just a word, but an action. The ramen shop didn't just survive, it thrived. The community rallied around us, and soon my father was able to get the medical care he needed, slowly regaining his strength. Our shop became a hub, a place where people would come not just for food, but to share stories, to offer encouragement, to connect. I continued putting up my posters, but now I wasn't alone. That kind woman who had first found me became a mentor, helping me organize a community project where other teenagers and adults could join me, creating and distributing messages of hope across Tokyo. We called ourselves the Hope Weavers. My internal nemesis, the fear of being powerless, transformed into a quiet confidence in the power of connection. I learned that kindness, even the smallest act, is never wasted. It ripples outwards, touching lives in ways we can never predict. One evening, years later, I was walking past the bus stop where the security guard had once made me take down a poster. And there it was, not my poster, but a new one, brightly colored, a little clumsily drawn, but with the same powerful message. "You are not alone." Beneath it, tucked into a corner, was a small, familiar doodle of a smiling cloud. My own unique signature passed on, carried forward by a new, hopeful hand. Things truly do get better, not always because the struggle disappears, but because we learn that we are never, ever alone in facing it.